Hi everyone! Today I'm here at Chanticleer Gardens in Wayne, Pennsylvania to show you around this absolutely gorgeous public garden. This garden is 35 acres with 14 separate gardens, each having its own head gardener, so it's really a sight to behold. I've been to this garden about 3 times over the past 15 years, and each time I am inspired to add things to my garden that I see here. I would personify this garden as a creative, imaginative, artistic, and just using nature to construct beautiful structures and forms like you've never seen before. So let me show you around every garden and then we can just have a wonderful time together. Let's go. Chanticleer Gardens is the former estate of Adolf and Christine Rosengarten, who made their money in pharmaceuticals. Their son, Adolf Jr., was an avid gardener and generously left the entire property for the enjoyment and education of the public following his death in 1990. We'll start our tour in the Teacup Garden, whose statement piece is an Italian fountain with 4 falling streams of water. The sound of the fountain bounces around the semi-enclosed space and gives this garden a calm and cooling feel. Behind the garden is the home of daughter Emily Rosengarten, and I think the Mediterranean architecture with the warm gray stucco is the perfect backdrop for the mix of subtropical and tender plants that we see here. Now, the plants in this garden change both seasonally and yearly, giving the gardeners a chance to try new and interesting combinations. There's a large amount of tropicals this year, mixed with smoke bushes, lilies, agapanthus, and even some succulents. Next, we'll venture down to the tennis court garden, which is the first garden to be developed after Mr. Rosengarten's passing. Although this garden is a rectangle where we can see the entire garden from above, once we venture down the stairs, we find ourselves engulfed in dense plantings, and the idea of a single view garden really disappears. Around every corner is a new planting, mainly in hot colors of bright yellow, orange, and vibrant red. I saw a great deal of lilies, crocosmia, red hot pokers, and a lot of amber heucheras. The tennis court arbor is a garden within a garden. Climbing roses dominate the arbor, and a beautiful bench made by one of the gardeners anchors the arbor, beckoning you to sit and stay a while. As we walk up a paved road, we find ourselves at the entrance to the main house, where there's a gravel garden surrounded by hydrangeas, cherry trees, and hellebores. The gravel is raked into different geometrical patterns throughout the seasons using a homemade rake. Each redrawing of the gravel can take up to 45 minutes, and the task must be done between 2 and 4 times a week. Following the path leads us to the side of the house, where we're greeted with masses of potted plants and beautiful handmade furniture that allows us to sit and look out over the large lawn expanse. As we round the corner some more, we see the lower lawn terrace that's planted predominantly in chartreuse and yellow. There's hearts of gold redbud, a few golden spirit smokebush trees, and even a paper mulberry called Golden Shadow. The terrace itself has about 30 containers and a lot of large hanging baskets planted with a mix of succulents, shrubs, and hardy perennials. To the side of the house is a sun porch that was once glassed in, but is now open to the elements. There's a wonderful cooling breeze that comes off the hill, and more handmade rocking chairs, tables, benches surround you. You'll see potted begonias, bird's nest ferns, cast iron plants, palms, and staghorn ferns that adorn this magical outdoor room. The open windows also frame the garden beautifully. As you walk out of the sun porch and along the terrace, you come to one of my favorite spaces, the reflecting pool. This garden was built after Chanticleer became a public garden in 1993, and it's often flanked by large terracotta pots. However, this year the pots were nowhere to be found. Turning to the right is a flowery lawn, an unusual but delightful meadow where we can see the family pool in the distance. We cannot walk near the pool as gates flank the sunken garden, so we must just imagine swimming in this glorious pool surrounded by hydrangeas and espalier apricot trees. Now we arrive at the most memorable garden I have ever encountered, the Rune Garden. Although not a true rune, it does sit on the foundation of Adolf Rosengarten's home. The initial idea was to create the rune by partially dismantling the original home. but this was quickly deemed unsafe and unsightly. The old house was instead demolished, and 3 rooms were created in its place. The flooded room eerily greets you with a fountain which has 6 carved masks scattered about. 1 is on the wall, 1 in the corner, 3 floating above the water, and 1 ominously appears to be sinking. The pillars of the Rune hold chain-linked iron buckets filled with succulents, and around the corner is a library in despair. There's a dining room with a long reflecting pool to give the feel of a banquet table, and the mantel is adorned with succulents while climbing hydrangeas seem to climb and creep at their own will. Outside the Rune is the gravel garden, which seems to carry a bit of the Rune with you as you meander throughout it. There's a sofa and 2 love seats made of stone that overlook the free draining planting area. This is a garden to be walked through, not just viewed from afar. It is mainly a herbaceous garden, with a wisteria arbor off to the side. There's a good deal of poppies, coneflower, blazing stars, aster, milkweed, and lavender in this garden. Even though it is a gravel garden that was heavily amended to drain well, it feels very Pennsylvania to me, and I always appreciate that. We walk down the flower-filled rock ledge to be greeted by the beginning of the pond garden. The upper ponds are home to turtles and Japanese koi, and are surrounded by gardens filled with poppies, salvia, and lady's mantle. There are dozens of varieties of hardy water lilies that will certainly take your breath away. As you circle around the pond garden, you come to an arbor that looks like it could belong to the Rune garden, but apparently it used to be a wooden structure that had to be rebuilt. White flowering Japanese wisteria climbs and hangs all around you, and tall wooden chairs give a bit of a rigid, almost throne-like feel. Now we arrive at the Asian Woods, which is a 1-acre garden in the far corner of Chanticleer. It is a peaceful retreat filled with different foliage colors and textures, protected by a canopy of maple, oak, beech, ash, and persimmon trees. A meandering stream follows the walkway with places to sit and relax around each bend. Hidden in the distance behind a hedge of bamboo is what looks to be a tea house, but it's actually a well-designed restroom. Even the water fountains here are original works of art, carved of wood and formed onto stone. We walk a good distance and arrive at the cutting garden, which looks quite different than how I remember it in years past. There used to be great arches of driftwood and tree branches with flowering vines rambling up and over the arches. Even without these structures, the garden is still lovely and is filled with sunflowers, dahlias, cosmos, poppies, amaranth, larkspur, sweet william, and of course, lilies. This is a working garden, and the flowers from this garden are used to make arrangements for the house, bathroom, and open-air sunroom. There are many other gardens on the property, a vegetable garden, a stream garden, and a wooded garden, to name just a few. But I hope in seeing some of my personal favorites, it has given you the flavor and flair of this one-of-a-kind artistic garden. Perhaps you could say that the home here is a great stage, and each garden is an act telling the story of how one can work with nature to create something truly magical. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys, and visiting Chanticleer Gardens. More than anything, I just hope you'll give this garden a visit. Every nook and cranny is filled with something interesting, whether it be plant material, something that's made by a horticulturalist here, and it's just full of so much artistic inspiration. So I want to wish you a great day and a wonderful time out there in your gardens. Bye!